Hi, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with the SAPI IP Business Talks. Today we are in Norway, in Israel. So we are everywhere with you, all like always. I'm very happy today that we have not one guest, not two. We have two guests and two moderators. We do everything to entertain you when it comes to IP management. And today we have Magnus, Hakvåg, and Maier Fenster with us. Both were already guests here in the show. And we talk about what they will do when you come to Strasbourg to the I3PM conference in Strasbourg at SAP, and the whole IP Business Academy team will also be there, and we are happy to talk with you, to engage with you, to interact. And here now we take the opportunity to introduce you to this very specific approach from Magnus and Maier. They will do a serious game there. So we will talk about what that means. First of all, hi Tobias, hi Maier, and hi Magnus. So I start with Maier. Maier, thank you very much for joining the show. Tell us a little bit, how did you came into that strange field of IP?
Wow. Well, I trained actually as a human factors ergonomics engineer, but there wasn't much work in it at the time, 30 years ago. And what I really liked about the job was a lot of technology and very interesting people doing very interesting stuff. And my father was a patent attorney, still is, and he told me, do what I'm doing. You'll find it interesting. It's exactly what you want to do. So that's how I got here. And if you look at my profile, they say, where did you study? So honestly, what I studied 35 years ago doesn't matter that much. But since then, I've had leading academics, researchers, practitioners teaching me, the bleeding edge of what they're doing. Okay. So it's
Okay.
very fun, very educational. That's how I got here.
Got you. Okay, so it's a family business and a kind of family legacy that you are a patent attorney.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Magnus, thank you very much for joining us today here in the SAP IP Business Talk. So what is your background? How did you came into that field? And with your, we will talk about serious games additionally, but basically, how did you came in? And what personally interests me, why are your headphones pink?
Yeah, so why my headset from pinks? It's because in my daughter's bedroom, but it's something I like to stand out. I don't look like everybody else in like dark suits. Let's go pink and get attention. And my wife told me that, well, it's good. Your trusting yourself is kind of glowing pink from here. So I think that's good. So that's kind of the headphones. But how did I end up with IP? That's interesting. That's derailing from physics. I have a master in medical technology and biophysics, and I completely derailed into innovation entrepreneurship, figuring out, well, somehow we need to protect what we're doing, and there was no education. So that's what I've been doing for 25 years. So completely derailing. Sold my soul, went to IP, figured out I found a different soul, and this is awesome.
Got you. Wonderful story. So, Tobias, thank you very much for joining us. Now we are the moderator team. So now we have a team of moderators because we have two very special guests. It's better that we are together with them. But Tobias, you are a program coordinator at the IP Business Academy, and everybody who works with us know that you are not just my right hand, you're also my left hand and my brain and everything. But tell us a little bit. So I have heard that you will become a doctor very soon.
Very soon, hopefully.
Congrats from my side. So it's good to have a second one in the team. and you're a physicist too. And so you have all, everything in the world to make a career, to make something meaningful, to have fun. What are you doing in IP? So how did you came into the IP world?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, first I started with studying physics, and then I went to Institute for Environmental Sciences. And then I was a bit looking for, okay, in which direction should I go? And because I studied in Munich, I already knew a bit about the patent field. So I was not really in it, but I knew that it existed. So I was also a bit considering it. And then I met you, and that's how I came into the strange field. Yeah.
Okay. I'm a people catcher.
You're totally a people catcher.
Totally.
Yeah. And maybe I should say as a moderator now what my role at the IP Business Academy is as a program coordinator. So basically, I am the main contact person for all our IP experts who are on the platform. So it doesn't really matter if it's the organization of a live talk or an article, or if you want to be in a newsletter. So whatever format this is, I'm the main contact person to make it happen. Yeah, that's the experts are on the platform.
And today you are not an avatar, you are real, but many avatars from us are already on the platform. And typically you work with our IP subject matter experts. So that is really something what you're doing. You bring the content online and help them to meet with the European companies who need help, and you bring that together. Wonderful. So let's start to talk about the conference, and not in general. Let's talk about your track and especially these serious game. What's going on there? So first, I mean, we have heard about that from WIPO, from Singapore LAS. So Magnus is doing a lot that when you are on LinkedIn and when you have anything to do with IP, you learn sooner or later Magnus and his serious game thing. So it's about open innovation. So this is obviously, it is not a lecture. So nobody stands there and tells about his or her individual visit. It is about doing something concrete. So can you tell us in a nutshell, what is a serious game and why it should be a serious game in Strasbourg during the I3PM conference?
Well, first, what is a serious game? It's a game, but it's not a game where the purpose is just for fun. The game is a simulation where you engage people to interact. And that's kind of why we chose to do this on open innovation, but we'll get back to that. So the serious game is a way to bring people into dialogue, to exchange perspectives, to solve something jointly, because all the games we do are team-based against the game, not against each other, because then you got more psychological security. It's easier to exchange perspectives. And it also has another beautiful content, is that when you're in a large conference and there's a lot of experts, who dares raise their hand to ask a question? In a serious game in a group of 5, well, you know who you're talking to because you're presenting yourself. And now you can ask questions, you give relevant examples, and you get feedbacks. And that's one of the beauties. It's making it easier to engage. And that's why we did a game for this as well. Plus, even though I've got a big ego, I like to be the divine divinity standing in front of people talking. I like to engage people, as I like to be down to earth, because I need to be down to earth according to my wife, because I got too big an ego. And then doing a game is awesome for exactly that.
Got you. Okay. So so that means you want that people interact and open innovation. I mean, Andrew Jasper would be happy to hear that now let's say the buzzword he coined is now at the I3PM conference, and a serious game exists. So what is is that the logic also of all the others, WIPO and LES and with NATO and I don't know, everybody? I'm expecting that next year you go to the Vatican and make a serious game there. So is that as obviously it is terrible successful what you're doing there. So people are enlightened. Also my students, yeah, you were a week ago, in 2 weeks ago, you had a serious game with the master, with our master with the EPO at SAP, and also again, yeah, every year they are really engaged and happy to work with you. So this is the learning deeper? Is it because you interact and you do something? So typically, I would say that it should become a deeper learning experience. Is that true?
I would say yes, and then add something. So what is the beauty of all games is that versus a lecture is that it's easier to target everyone in the room. In an audience, I can make example which is very relevant to some and less relevant to others. In a serious game, the examples are from the players in your group, and they're highly relevant because they use them to support your argument. So that's kind of the driver of all games. We got collaborative games. It's not one with the computer. It's a collaborative game where you jointly create insights, you exchange perspectives and your experiences, and you learn from each other. And that's what we want to do on this topic as well, because there's also no solution to the problem. It depends. And then the purpose of having the dialogue among the experts, where we'll just support them to their level of excellence. And we'll just kind of float around, assisting them being, well, experts, glowing and shining and exchanging their deeper thoughts. And it releases complexity, because instead of in the lecture, I could give information that's made available. In a game, it's made consumable and comprehensible in a sequence, so I can program the dialogue so you can get more and more advanced, faster and faster, so you understand the complexity by doing it yourself. There's a huge difference listening to complexity and you sit like this, engaging and doing it, and like, oh yeah, I got it. It's a huge difference.
Okay, so you can improve your understanding during the game, and you can make it more and more thrilling for the people to do something. Okay, got you. Maier, what is your role in that serious game?
I'll answer you in a second, but I just wanted to add one word, and that word is experience. Okay, putting aside the fact that if you sit all day in a conference, you could fall asleep. It has been known to happen. And it's fun playing a game and you move around and so on. What you get in a serious game is an experience. So 2 years later, when the context is relevant, you might or might not remember that you heard a lecture. You might remember something interesting from the lecture. But if you played a serious game, you will have a grasp on the situation. You will have experienced it before. You'll say, oh, wait, I felt this before. Okay. So, and that's very powerful.
It's a kind of situational experience. So
exactly.
Because I was so much also emotionally involved, and that makes the experience much clearer and deeper. Okay, got you. So, and in this in this game, what you will do at 23rd of June in Strasbourg at the SAP I3PM conference, what are the types of choices or policies? So how could what can they do? Because I mean, it's prepared, yeah. So is there something? How can they interact at the end? So how broad is this world which you can cover in the game?
Okay. Let me take 2 questions back, and then I'll answer that question. You asked, how did I get involved with this? And the answer is that in 2018, I came to the conclusion that I need to get managers to better understand IP matters. And when I say managers, I mean founders of startup companies. So I built my own serious game. and it was fun and so on. But then 3.5 years ago, like you said, anybody who's involved in LinkedIn and an IP hears of Magnus, and I heard of Magnus, and we really hit it off together. And I've always wanted to not only play his games, which I have, but also build a game together with him. And we had a discussion on LinkedIn where this issue of open innovation came up. And I realized that open innovation is something people talk about, but might not be aware that they're experiencing. So let's make a game out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the advice of a PAN attorney and founder called Moti Margalit, I actually developed 2 ideas, things I'd like to get past to the audience. And one was the more typical type of open innovation, which is you have a big company and they're not doing the innovation, and they are merging, buying, licensing, working together with a small company who does have the innovation. And that is apparently the more common situation. But the more fun situation is actually when you have an ecosystem with a lot of players. And by open innovation, and to those who don't know, open innovation means that you don't have the not invented here syndrome. Open innovation means that you're open to innovation coming from outside. And that situation of an ecosystem has 2 things going for it. First of all, it's much more exciting because the effect you can have on the world is much bigger. But the second thing is you're much less likely to be part of it. Okay? Most PAN attorneys, IP managers, business people are not going to be on the deciding side of the open innovation. They're not going to be working in the big company which decided to do open innovation and are going to be part of running that open innovation. You might be on the receiving part, and you might not even be aware of it. And what I mentioned before about experience, I think that's exactly what you want to do in a conference. You want people to learn something which helps them develop, and because it's a game, there's no risk involved, but it puts them in a much better position if they do happen to meet an open innovation situation, whether the big guy, or I'll call them little guys, but it doesn't have to be little guys. And having had the experience, they know much better what to do. And now so that's why we chose to do the ecosystem type open innovation. And now, Alex, you said, but I'll emphasize it, different serious games are different. In some of them, you do actual actions, filing a patent, signing a license, but some of them are about policy. And in this serious game, your main tool that you use as a player is deciding what your policy will be about multiple different issues, which have to do with IP, but Magnus wants to say something about that. But you choose your policies and you see how your policies affect the open innovation. So that's what you can do. And you had something very interesting to say about that it's not just IP and why it's so interesting to do it.
And I can add something. Why did you also choose a game for the conference? It's the i3P. It's with the i3PM. It's a network of people, and one outcome of playing a game is that you know who knows what. And knowing who knows what, and it enhances your network capabilities, so you know whom to talk to later on. So you've also been working with or simulating working with people, solving difficult problems. So it's easier also to engage with people later on for building a community of practice. So it's a starting point. So that's why it's also really fitting this conference. and also how engaging can a game be. I'll make an example. We did the first WIPO game in South Africa with the South African patent office. We got senior people there, and they started dancing because they were enjoying patent analytics in a game. And when you can make patent analytics enjoying and fun and engaging to the point where you start dancing, you know you nailed it. And that's the beauty of a serious game. It's very hard what you mentioned about feelings, and feelings you recognize when you're in a similar situation later. So it's a really powerful way of programming a dialogue and cognitively programming yourself to remember and be prepared. That's why you do fire drills. It's kind of the same. When you're in a similar situation later on, you're on and you know what to do.
Okay, got you. So it's not just learning; it's also a kind of simulator, right? So what would happen when, and so it starts to become fun, and even very complex, abstract, and theoretical concepts like open innovation. I mean, Maier, you nailed it down with open innovation means, first of all, the not invented here syndrome is not there. And but to be honest, so when from time to time we make little workshops and show our case studies. For example, this white spot case study with ABP from Daniel Holzner, we show that to engineers from companies, and they feel uncomfortable that an artificial intelligence is able to do such creative work. And for me, this is a kind of not invented here syndrome in terms of and also with patent, when you show a patent attorney how powerful these tools are at the end of the day to make a lot of the work of a patent attorney when drafting a patent. I don't say that AI can draft a perfect patent alone. That's not my point. But the level of support which is today possible, some patent attorneys feel extremely uncomfortable with that idea. And it is again the not invented here syndrome, because they feel the pressure to react anyhow. And I think that is something which can maybe Magnus, you would like to create a game for IP experts or for patent attorneys especially, to accept better that the world is turning around right now or changing it at least dramatically, and they should adapt and not try to fight. So that does not. The translators already tried to fight and they lost. So it's nothing to fight. It's something to embrace and to work with it. Okay, got you. Yeah, sorry, I had a technical interruption, but now it seems to work again very well. So Tobias, when you will be there at the show, so what will you also interact with the game, and what you're doing then? So can we use the outcomes, for example, for the IP Business Academy? Should we make a video from the show so that people learn better what it means? Should we make an interview after that with the participants? Yeah, because I think it is a wonderful face-to-face, real presence. And I think it would be great when we have video interviews with participants and they tell us how was it. Yeah. So it's not just something written; it's something video, real. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best way to talk about it is to have an interview after it happens, because I mean, while you're doing it, you probably cannot really say anything. So it has to be after it's finished. But then I think having some feedback, what did they learn, how did they profit from it, also some outlook, what might they want to have additionally in the game, or maybe they have also ideas for other topics where you can apply similar types of games. I think that would be a very good thing to have as some interview and probably written in a blog post after the event. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about the question: how could we make a follow up of that? Yeah. So I mean, it's great when people come to Strasbourg, when we talk with each other, when we interact. But obviously, I mean, these open innovation is a very, very important topic. And how you are involved, Maier. So is that something which you also consult? So do you help companies by overcoming that frustration that others might be better than they are in solving some problems? No, I mean, is it? I mean, it is a psychological effect, first of all. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's only logic that the assumption that I'm not the only one who is clever is not so bad. So that others outside are maybe also very good, and that it makes absolutely sense to bring them in. Yeah. So what is your experience in that field, and do you help companies with that?
Okay, so most of my work is with startup companies, and a lot of the founders, not all of them, but most of them, they don't believe that anybody else is doing anything better than them. Okay, so they just don't believe it. It's not an issue. And one of the things that I focus on with regard to open innovation is the fact that these startup companies are going to be the target of somebody else who wants to use them for open innovation. And I think right now there's two very important focuses. One is they shouldn't be swallowed, chewed up, and spat out again. Okay, which is something that often happens in these relationships. And we just had a workshop on trade secrets, and one of the issues was that one of the big partners, they didn't come in order to partner. They came in order to interfere because they knew that the small company was doing a better job and they didn't want them to succeed. So part of it is that. But the other part is more important, which is the value of a startup company is often measured by the product. So we're going to sell a medical widget. It's going to cost $100 to make, $100 to distribute, and we'll sell it for $1,000. We multiply it by the number of sick people, so you know what the value of the company is. But that is not correct, because often these companies have a synergy, either with a single player or with the entire ecosystem. And one of the things that I try to push the companies to do is to consider where their value comes in, and of course, what kind of IP do they need in order to protect that value? What kind of IP do they need in order to have a useful partnership with a much bigger player? And what kind of IP do they have to start now in order to control the ecosystem that they are creating? Often a startup company, sometimes it's disruption, meaning we're destroying what exists, but sometimes it's more like blue ocean. So it's a blue ocean, but you're a small startup company. You're never going to have enough resources to take over the entire world. You're going to have partners and people copying and licensees. And we can call it like that, or we can say, you're creating an ecosystem. Can we build the IP which will help you when the time comes, control that ecosystem and, divert some of the value to your company? So that's really, I look at it. Okay, I don't work with these huge companies that they decide that they're going to do open innovation and how they can control everybody else.
Yeah. So Magnus, one of our in the audience listener says, I don't have the full information here in StreamYard, but at least there is the idea that could we involve more people? Okay, so and I mean, not everybody is simply able to come to Strasbourg and to go into that kind of game. So the question could we imagine? So I would like to talk about two things. So with Maier, I would like to talk a bit more. Could we better integrate his experience and these ecosystem thinking, where IP plays a role on the IP Business Academies? I would really like to give you a stage for that and to think how we could organize that. And Magnus, in your direction, how can we involve more people in this thinking? Because at the end of the day, the open innovation is the cornerstone in a digitally driven world. And would it be possible to do something even more public than doing it just on the conference? It's absolutely great that we have it on the conference, but how could we make it bigger?
That's an interesting question. So if we kind of take open innovation ourselves, what we could do after the conference, we can engage people on what are the most sexy challenges they can meet given their size and context. And we could use those as a next step of the game. So you could play the same game multiple times. Because the beauty of the game, which we designed, me and Maier together here now, is that it's an open-ended game. So you choose a policy, but what you do depends on what you do. So there's a consequence, but it needs to be a logical sequence of what you do in order to make it work. And even though you do something different, it still might work, and you might not have chosen so, but there's a rationale that you have which makes that reasonable. So what you could have done as a next step is that we could have invite people to take part in it. We could have done more open games. We could train the trainers, so we could scale it. It's possible to do it digitally, but then again, when there's a lot of us men over 40, we are slightly more digital literate than women, because not that they are better, it's just that we are not listening when we try to explain how to. But we can do digitally large scale if we train facilitators, meaning we can do as many as we please. And we can make it engage. You could play the same game multiple times. So you've got different new challenges, and you could build on it. And we can make it something that engage, and we could join with others who have outreach in national basis. So let's say the local ones. For example, we're doing a conference also with the Enterprise Island on IP for startups. So
okay, so I got you, and I have two suggestions. What I would like to do. So one thing is we have these open foresight boards at the IP Business Academy that are some hundred heads of IP from the industry. And obviously they suffer to a certain extent, as I think Maier said, that they cannot, they are not the last decision maker in their company when it comes to IP. So they are, when it comes to open innovation, they are just a contributor. So, but I think we could or should offer to them to do that in their companies. We could also offer them to integrate them in public games, and to make a case study about that, to document that, what is the role of IP in such a situation. Yeah, and that is a completely different thing from staying on the stage and telling the truth, to get them involved. I think that could make a lot of sense. And Maier, I think we should think about a kind of white paper or whatever, so a kind of a documented outcome. Yeah, and maybe that can be something which i3PM is facilitating with the IP Business Academy together, and to bring it really to the companies where it counts, and to help them to overcome this initial, not invented here problems. So coming back to,
I have to add something to what Magnus said earlier. Gave me a thought. When we designed the game, one of the things that Magnus and I discussed quite a bit is how do we make the game accessible there's a wide range of technologies that are going to be at the conference. Okay, you're going to have people that are 100% bio, you're going to have computer people, you're going to have mechanical, and so on. So one of the things we did was we chose a familiar technology and familiar issues which we hope anybody can easily think about. But if I were doing what Magnus said, the exact same game with a real story in the chemical industry would be interesting, more interesting even, to IP people in the chemical industry. That's one dimension. The other dimension has to do with the game being collaborative versus competitive. So in a conference, it's difficult to arrange it, but when you do it otherwise, we can definitely arrange different players. You know, in an open innovation scenario, you have, I'm super oversimplifying, but you have an orchestrator, you can have the companies that are taking part in the ecosystem, you can have companies that sit in two ecosystems at the same time, you can have somebody coming from outside trying to take over, and they don't have the same interests. And
Yeah.
in a game, in a conference, we can't set it up. But in a game where the people come ahead of time and we have enough time and focus, you can have more interesting games. Not interesting for the people, but interesting with regard to the dynamics and parts that you can play. So I just wanted to complete that thought.
Yeah,
I can
got you.
add on top of that is that if you also have a specific user group, which is at a specific higher level, we can increase the complexity to much higher level too. So when it's an open game where we don't know the background, we need to be more generic and the game can adjust. But if it's we know ahead, or those are advanced, like this IP management system game, which we played 2 weeks ago with Cypher for the Masters, I know they're at this level. I could put the level up here, and I can really challenge them. So you really kind of at the end you get a headache, and then I kind of reach my goal. That you can look at them and see that the soul has left the building, and then it's a success.
Got you. Got you. So our job today is to make also a bit of advertisement for the conference and what people can expect when they come to Strasbourg. And so my question is, what can the people expect from your serious game? So what will be, so to speak, the take home experience? Why should it make a lot of sense? Besides of the fact to get personal interaction with you, guys, what would you say? What is the take home experience?
So I could add something first. So one of the biggest takeaways is that you get a systemic overview of how open innovation works with regards to ecosystems. That's one. The other one, and that is a kind of a felt physical experience. The other one is that you got a variety of examples from your peers, and that's very valuable. You're not just getting one person like giving you the message and this is the way to do it, but you have reflected and been challenged by 4 other experts in your group, and that's very valuable because you got challenged. You can improve your thoughts, and you got their thoughts on top. That is highly valuable.
I would put that a teeny bit differently. I believe that in smaller companies, the job of an IP manager is very lonely because there's usually only one. Maybe he or she has an assistant. And you were trained, wherever you were trained, you probably might have only gotten one point of view. Obviously, if you go to the program at the IP Business in Strasbourg, so you got more points of view, but there's that risk. And here you have an opportunity to learn other patterns of thought of IP managers. Now, the fact that it's open innovation is good. But the fact that you're seeing how other people, completely different from you, trained differently, with different experience, how they analyze IP issues, what they think is important, all sorts of ideas that they have, which you could never have because you just didn't come that way. I think that's the biggest takeaway. So, in agreement with Magnus, the other four people in your group, okay, and when you talk to your other friends afterwards, I think that is the biggest values that you get.
Yeah, I got you, and I can only agree. I mean, what is your experience, Tobias, with our lecturers? And they are quite often also experienced head of IP or IP managers. So I can really agree with the perspective from Maier that it is quite often a quite lonely job, and you are more or less the only one who takes care about that in your company, and typically you are not allowed to talk with others, so it's tricky. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think it's also different on the country you're from, also the company sizes that you're used to. The industry, of course, if it's a very technical industry, or if you're more in a brand based industry. So I think there are a lot of different topics that people are used into their daily lives, and having insights from other industries, from other perspectives is very, very valuable to learn something. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Can
And
I
also
give
we
an
have our
example?
bullets there, right? Yeah, excuse me, Maier.
Yeah, sorry. I can I give an example for what Tobias just said? Okay, so if you think about pharmaceutical companies, when they invent a new drug, after they know the chemical composition, they still continue doing a lot of R&D. And of course, they patent it. When you develop a medical device, in the mind of the engineer, once they have a device and the device got regulatory approval, they're done until they make version 2.0. But if they were to talk with somebody from the pharmaceutical industry, they would understand that there's a lot of R&D happening on the clinical side, I'll call it, after it's over. But it gets better. In pharmaceutical companies, doing R&D is very, very expensive. But in device companies, doing clinical R&D, every single doctor who's using the device is doing R&D. That doctor is doing open innovation. Okay, he's determining, which patients react best. Who is that open innovation going to belong to? So a lot of device companies are not even aware that this open innovation is happening and this value is being generated, and they've lost control of the story. But if they were to sit in this game together with somebody from the pharmaceutical industry, they might understand that, yeah, there's innovation happening, a lot of it, and they could use it to control the ecosystem.
Yeah, got you 100%. Okay, so I think we were able to make clear what will happen there and why it has a value for the participants to come to the conference. So it's the 23rd of June. I'm happy to see you there. Thank you very much for joining us today to explain that. And thank you, Tobias, for being there and for your endless work and to make all that happen. Thank you to the audience. And Maier, Magnus, please stay a little bit around on the chat. So when the audience have questions, it would be great when you could give answers in the after show party. Thank you very much.
Comment. I have put the link to the registration page into the comments. So if you want to register, please just go into the comments and find all the information about the conference.
And final remark, when you want to become an IP subject matter expert at the IP Business Academy, we're happy to work with you. Just send me a direct message on LinkedIn, and I will answer 24/7. So enjoy and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Life is good.